Under Turkish law, this man is forbidden from singing or even talking. Like thousands of Turks, Ramazan Tana speaks only Kurdish, but officially, since 1983, anyone caught using the language has faced imprisonment. Whenever he leaves the village, he has to take a child along to act as translator. The law was designed to restrict the rise of Kurdish nationalism, but even the government concedes it doesn't work. Now the people of this border village and the country's 12 million other Kurds are to be given their tongue once again, but they are unimpressed.
Şimdi diyor ki dili serbest. Dil ben zaten burada da konuşuyorum. Şimdi senin yanında konuşuyorum. Tçavay başı, kefatı başı konuşuyorum. Yasak değil. Yasak değil. Kürtçe okulu açıyor mu? Hayır. Mecmua açıyor mu? Mecmua yazmak serbest ediyor mu? Hayır.
For Turkey's Kurds, it's a small but not entirely insignificant reform. Some politicians would refuse even to call the people here Kurds, insisting that they are mountain Turks. By having their language freed, these people's cultural identity has been implicitly accepted by a government whose official policy remains: in Turkey, there are no ethnic minorities.
The decision of all the people in this country is to live together as a united nations of this country, united people, and Atatürk says that the happy is the one who feels himself to be Turk. You know that the Ottoman Empire was a combination of many nations, of communities, and the Republic created a nation out of them, and this is the Turkish nation. And everybody that lives in Turkey feels himself a Turk and shares the national objectives and the will of the country.
This is a rare glimpse of the PKK, Kurdish separatist guerrillas in southeastern Turkey, who've been fighting a 7-year-long war against the Turkish military. 5,000 people have already been killed, thousands more evicted from their homes, and only last spring, troops mounted a major offensive against PKK units. In August, though, everything changed. The Gulf crisis found President Özal a reliable ally to the West, as he began calculating how a war with Saddam might ultimately benefit Turkey. One conclusion: now was the time to free the Kurdish language. He told members of his motherland party that he's looking to the day when Turkey sits down at post-war talks with the Allies. They might ask us why millions of people aren't allowed to speak their own language, he's quoted as saying. That would create problems for us.
But if President Özal is serious about showing clean hands over human rights to the West, he needs to do something about his police and military in the southeast.
In the regional capital, Diyarbakir, as the call to midday prayers fills the central square, so does the riot squad. There's been a rumor about an anti-war protest. Most Kurds here are opposed to American planes bombing Iraq from Turkish bases, largely because they're terrified of Iraqi counterattack. The week before, in nearby towns, 2 Kurds were killed by police during demonstrations by Muslim fundamentalists. The authorities are taking no chances this time. After a while, the square resembles a secret policeman's convention. Virtually everyone has the ubiquitous walkie-talkie and heavy overcoat. There was no protest, but the occasion provided a glimpse of the immense and powerful security network here. This is a frightened town. Few people talk to foreigners, fewer still want to risk talking to the press.
Half an hour ago, they took a person for nothing. Just they asked him for identity card, and they saw he's Kurdish, and they took him to the jail for nothing. And we are also human. We are not animal. We want also our freedom.
Is it not dangerous for you to talk to us like this?
Well, it's dangerous, but I'm not afraid. You know, I have been 2 times tortured already. And why should I afraid now?
What did they do to you?
They torture with electrician.
Electric shock?
Yeah. 2 times.
One Kurd's story isn't proof in itself, but evidence of human rights abuse has long been a source of political embarrassment for Turkey. A report from Amnesty International last May said torture is still routine, even among those detained only for a few days. And last week, the US State Department published a separate study which said pervasive and credible reports of torture persist throughout Turkey.
The human rights question, I lived more than 21 years in Western Europe, has been used as a political instrument, a pressure instrument against others, with the double, triple standards, if not more.
That doesn't make the torture of Kurds right, though.
There is torture, accidental, sporadic tortures in all societies. That is a case we have also, but this is not a systematic policy of any administration. Why you would not look to the Turkish workers' situation in Western Europe, separated families? But this is not a case, an issue, because they are Turks in Europe, and so Europeans are über alles, about everybody. You see, even in your question, you have double standards.
In Diyarbakir, this trader's town, tall tales, rumours and secrets are currency. Over the past few weeks, news stories have arrived here from the mountains on the Iraqi border. The suggestion is that the Gulf War is being used as an opportunity to launch a new clampdown on Kurdish guerrillas. The truth behind such stories lies somewhere along the trade route going east.
This is the Silk Road, skirting the Syrian border and leading through the mountains into Iraq. 6 months ago, it was one of the busiest roads in all Turkey, roaring with tankers bringing oil from the northern Iraqi fields. Today, traffic is limited to military convoys going east and Kurdish refugees fleeing west.
By the roadside, scores of deserted shops and petrol stations. Without the lorries, there's no trade. Less than 20 miles from the Iraqi border and just outside the military zone, this parade of stores was occupied, though, by Kurdish squatters. These families were evacuated from their homes by Turkish troops last week, apparently because of the risk of Iraqi attack. But they say they were forced from their homes and abandoned without food, drink or fuel.
Biz buraya göç olarak buraya geldi. Ne biz sarmayı hiçbir şeyi buraya getirmemiştir. Sadece çocuklar buraya getirdi. Yorgan buraya getirdi. Bizim diğer öteberler hepsi köyde kaldı. Bizim gücümüz yetmemek için biz oradan bıraktı. Eşyaları evden bıraktı, kapıyı kilitledi, geldi buraya.
No one's bothered to count the thousands of Kurds who've been moved out of the border zone, and no one's saying what's happening there now. A mile beyond the refugees, a military checkpoint. Soldiers block every route going east. Without special permission from the governor of the region, no civilians get through. The secrecy, of course, has itself inspired much of the speculation. Back in Diyarbakir, journalists at a pro-Kurdish newspaper told us they'd had a series of reports from their correspondents inside the military zone. All were talking of the same thing, an aerial bombardment by the Turkish Air Force on Kurdish villages. They had dates and times for what they said were 17 separate incidents between January the 20th and 25th.
Does he have any physical evidence of any of this?
Şimdi yani işte o film var bizde. Uçağın gördüğünüz, bombayı gördünüz.
Hangi film?
Şu slide.
Slide,
Kanıt olur yani başka oraya gitmek lazım. Hakkari'ye gitmek lazım.
In fact, the bomb turns out to be a fuel tank. And in a statement, the Turkish Foreign Ministry told Newsnight that it fell from an American plane returning from a mission over Iraq. But that's not the end of the matter. In a quite separate article, a pro-Kurdish magazine reported last week that they too had had numerous reports of aircraft bombing evacuated villages which were thought to be havens for the PKK guerrillas. And to muddy the waters still further, on January the 20th, the Turks admitted that one of their patrol planes had dropped a bomb accidentally on the foothills of the Judi Mountains close to the Iraqi border. In a Diyarbakir hotel, we were introduced to a man claiming to be a PKK soldier who said he's convinced that bomb was part of a planned military operation.
Turkey claimed that their plane dropped a bomb there because of a technical failure, just accidentally.
but that definitely was not the case. I mean, it dropped it deliberately. Those planes were on a mission to bomb the PKK there, in the Judy mountain area.
PKK'yi bombardman edecekti.
The Turkish government has advised Newsnight to treat such reports with great care because it says, unfortunately, there's a lot of disinformation around at the moment. In a statement it said, "It is absolutely untrue and it is simply not possible to visualize that the Turkish government or its military would launch an attack against its own citizens." The magazine which made the allegations has since been ordered to close down. It's impossible to see what's happening along the Turkish border, but events there will certainly reflect what might happen in northern Iraq. Like the Turks, Iraqi Kurds are looking to benefit from the Gulf War. The Americans are said to be interested in the idea of a federal state there, involving the Kurds, Arabs, and Turkmen, local Iraqis who speak Turkish. The area also includes the oil-rich towns of Mosul and Kirkuk. President Özal was recently asked how Turkey responded to the idea. In reply, he was quoted as saying that if it happened, he would insist Turkey was the guarantor.
Özal şunu düşünüyor.
Özal believes that Turkey will benefit from a Kurdish federation in Iraq so long as it's under Turkish control. That way he'll control the Kurdish movement as well as being in a position to benefit from the Mosul and Kirkuk oil fields. But any independence or federation in Iraq outside Turkish control would be a danger because it could become a source of inspiration for Kurds in Turkey and could also be a base for Kurdish guerrilla actions against Turkey.
President Özal is seen as a shrewd politician playing a dangerous game. He's been having meetings with Turkish newspaper editors and politicians from which are leaked stories of how he's studying old treaties and government documents about Turkey's claims to northern Iraq. Officially, though, it's all denied.
We have no territorial claims against anybody in the world. We have enough for us. We left behind Ottoman Empire. We are a modern republic now, going in the 68th year of life. A republic that wants the peace at home and abroad, that has no expansionist, adventurous ideas, projects whatsoever.
Turkey's Kurds have been frozen out of their country's politics since the republic was created. Now comes the first sign of a thaw. But President Özal daren't give them too much, so he's playing both sides at the same time, offering limited freedoms while using the Gulf War build-up to keep a firm control on any dream of Kurdish independence.